Welcome. This presentation summarizes my program evaluation of Texas Senate Bill 2, which introduces education savings accounts as a school voucher initiative. Will explore the goals, the methodology, and the findings, and the policy implications. Table of contents will be going over the executive summary, the purpose and scope, research methodology, communication plan, policy memo, and key findings, policy recommendations, policy brief highlights, anticipated impact, reflection, and takeaways. The evaluation uses both data and narratives to identify whether the ESA program has improved access for Texas families and if it intended equity goals are being met. The evaluation asks whether Senate Bill 2 is fulfilling its promise of choice and access, especially for families historically marginalized in Texas education system. We're going to assess the effectiveness of the bill, grounded in Milton Friedman's market-based theory and prior voucher studies, focused on funding equity, quality of education, and equity. By using both statistical analysis and thematic exploration, this evaluation ensures a well-rounded understanding of program outcomes. During our mixed method designs, we're going to use surveys, ANOVA and reservation, interviews, and grounded theory for both qualitative and qualitative research. We'll use state still sampling for urban families, suburban families, and rural families. We'll also have an ethics board to inform consent, anonymization, and bias mitigation. An effective communication plan ensures that the right people see and use the findings to make data-driven decisions. Our stakeholders are litigators, TAs and families, and advocacy groups. The tools we want to use are executive summaries, infographics, newsletters, and a website. Our benchmark is to have an 80% response rate, 100 plus website visits within a month, and 30 interviews. These disparities reveal how market-based solutions can unintentionally deepen existing educational inequalities without strong regulatory support. Vouchers don't fully offset the cost for low-income families. Special education services are inconsistent across private schools. Rural families have fewer viable options than urban families. These recommendations aim to address systemic inequalities while maintaining the program's goal of school choice. Two, some of the policy recommendations are expand on transportation stipends, enforce minimum special education services, conduct regional equity reviews, and establish a clear performance benchmark. The policy brief condenses the findings for quick reference by the general public and decision makers. Findings support evidence. Voucher amounts are often insufficient, rural access is low, and inconsistent support is needed for special needs families. The policy memo generated here is for Texas legislators and Texas Education Agency. The policy recommendations for the Texas ESA voucher program implementation. Discussion needs to go over the Texas Education Savings Account, or ESA program, presents an opportunity to expand on school choice across the state. However, its long-term success depends on ensuring equitable access and measurable educational outcomes for all families. This memo summarizes these findings of a recent program evaluation, offers recommendations to address key challenges identified. Key findings is that low-income families face transportation upfront costs that ESA funds do not fully cover. Private institutions vary significantly in their provision of special education services, leaving gaps for students with disabilities. Urban families have more viable private school options than those in rural areas, exacerbating the regional disparities. Recommendations are to expand transportation grants, allocating for dedicated funds to support student transit, especially for families in low income and rural areas. mandate minimum service standards, require all participating private schools to provide baseline special education services to ensure inclusion and compliance with federal expectations, conduct regional equity reviews, utilize geographic and demographic data to identify access gaps and inform outreach and resource allocation strategies for underdeserved areas, strengthen regulatory oversight, establish clear performance benchmarks and transparent reporting requirements for private institutions that accept vouchers. These recommendations aim to enhance the program accountability, reduce inequities, and to support sustainable implementation of the ESA initiative in Texas. If adopted, the recommendations can ensure that every child has a fair shot of quality education regardless of income or geography. Findings support evidence-based policymaking and promote equitable implementation of the ESA policies within the state of Texas. This evaluation reinforced the value of thoughtful research design and supporting fair, inclusive policy and reforms. The importance of equity-focused research questions. Mixed method provided deeper policy insight and relevance for future work in public administration. During our findings, this evolution examines the implementation of the impact of the Texas State Senate bill, which was introduced in the Education Savings Account system, which expands on the access of high-quality education through school vouchers. Using a mixed methods approach, the studying investigates whether the ESA program improves educational access for low and middle income families. While addressing geographic and social economic disparities, we use data gathered with quantitative research and qualitative research using ground theory and targeting certified surveys to gather this information. Findings suggest that while the program shows promise in promoting school choice, barriers such as transportation costs and uneven special education service and limited rural access become prevalent within families that don't have equitable access to private institutions. A communication strategy tailored to stakeholders, including legislators, family administrators, and advocacy organizations, supports the dissemination of actionable findings. Policy recommendations include expanding transportation stipends, standardized service across participating schools, and implementing a regional equity reviews. These findings aim to enhance accountability and ensure the ESA program fulfills its equity and accessible objectives. During the research method, the study employed a mixed methods approach, which thoroughly accesses both qualitative results and quantitative experiences. By combining qualitative and quantitative methods enables a more comprehensive understanding of policy effectiveness. The core research questions ask whether the Texas ESA voucher program increases access to high quality education for low and middle income families. Secondary questions explore geographic and social economic equity and fund distribution and service availability. The ethical considerations include informed consent data and anonymization and secure data handling. Addressing potential sources of bias such as non-responsive is crucial for the valid interpretation. A targeted communication plan will ensure that findings are disseminated to 4 primary stakeholder groups: state legislators, Texas Education Agency, program administrators, and participating families, and advocacy organizations, which each group will receive customized information aligned with their decision-making responsibilities. Disseminating methods include executive summaries, whether they're delivered in hand, through the mail, or online, full reports and appendices posted to a dedicated website with a target goal of 1,000 plus unique visits. Also surveys with an 80% response rate, and at least 30 in-depth interviews. The projected budget allocations for $30,000 of staff time, $10,000 for technical production, and $5,000 for stakeholder briefings and travel, and a $5,000 contingency plan. As we stated when we went over the policy memo, the policy brief is ensuring that the equity of the Texas ESA voucher program. However, the gaps in affordability access are inclusion persist. Voucher amounts often fail to cover full tuition and transportation. Rural families often face a limited choice of schools. Special education services are inconsistent. Provide transportation stipends to support low-income families. Enforce compliance with special education. Recommendations are to enforce compliance in special education services across participating schools. Use regional data and to enhance outreach, equitable program access. Equitable policy implementation requires attention from both systemic design and localized impacts. Addressing these gaps is essential to prevent a widening of educational equities.